Flyer Talk is where we basically, the whole team, coaching staff and the players included, go to the arena, and we kind of just sit down and Coach Grant takes us through like kind of team bonding, exercise, whether it may be like what are the goals for this year, or what are certain things we want to accomplish this year, and then we kind of just sit down and figure out how we can just work together and accomplish the goal.
So there's been a lot of discussions about how we're going to handle this new era. We're in a period of transformational change in college sports. Everyone knows that now, and effective here in July that we're making direct payments to student athletes for the first time in college sports history, really. And one of the things that Coach Grant and I talked about as part of that programming and how they do their Flyer Talks is that we're going to be a grateful program, and we're going to respect our fans. We're going to respect the players that came before, the players that are here that didn't get the opportunity that these players get, and that set the stage for that. And we're not going to be an entitled program. Money is important. This is an important part of being competitive, and we're going to compete with everyone in the country what we need to do there, but we're not going to sacrifice gratefulness. We're not going to sacrifice our commitment to academics. We're not going to sacrifice our commitment to the community, because at the end of the day, we're here, and our players have the opportunity to receive money and to receive compensation as a result of our fan base. And we're not going to let that go unnoticed and let that go unsaid.
All right, so I think Coach told you, we're going to kind of just spend about 20 minutes touring the arena. What's important to me, and we'll talk a little bit about this when we go upstairs, but we're in this new world, right? And our fans have always mattered to us, but now they matter a little more. We're entering a period of survival of the fittest fan base, right? That allows you to pursue your hopes, goals, dreams, aspirations of playing basketball, get an education, and now there's money that comes with it, right? And everyone that came before you really didn't have that opportunity. People that played in this building since 1969, so it's really important to me that we kind of take some time to just kind of see what we have. Coach is big on being grateful, and we're a grateful program, and we're going to extend that to our community, with that. So what we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about this. We'll do maybe just about a 20-minute tour, because most of our players have never been up here. Of our current players that have been here for a couple years, who's ever been up here? No, you're down there, right? So there's a lot of things that you don't see. And then as we walk, I'm going to pass this out. In fact, I'll start passing it out now. What this is a seat map of the arena. And I have broken down on there what the annual cost is per seat, per year, and then per game. Okay? So we'll go through this a little bit later, but I'll take you in some seats in a suite that costs $75,000 a year, and then there are people that pay $366 a game to come watch you play. And then there's people that come up here, and this is their view. Now, this is a pretty good 400 level view for most arenas, okay? But was coming up those stairs easy, right? You got people that are older, people that, we have an elevator for people that handicap. This is handicapped seating here. So there's wheelchairs up here, and there's people that, this is where they get a chance to come up to see the game. So it's really important to me that we understand kind of that. We see the courtside flashy seats, right? You see those when the Knicks and the Pacers and all the celebrities, right? They can do that. But the real heroes kind of our program is everybody that sits up here. So every seat in this arena, for you new guys, is a season ticket. You cannot buy a single game ticket for a Dayton basketball game. For the last 4 years, every ticket has been sold before the season starts as a season ticket. So if someone says, hey, I want to go to the Dayton game tonight, hop on and buy tickets, the only way you're doing that is on the secondary market, StubHub or one of those deals. They're all season tickets. And we have about 1,500 people on the waiting list to get a season ticket. When a season ticket opens up, they got to start up here, because these seats turn over a little more than down there. So the lower arena, there's some people it's taken them 20 years to work their way down, and it's based on how long they've been a season ticket holder, how much they donate to the program or to the university, that they can work their way down. And so when we have people that they'll call them to say, can I move down yet? There's not a seat open yet. Well, I've been 15 years. What about the next year? Can I move down? And so we put them on a list and we try to keep moving them down. And then when they move down, someone else that's on the outside comes in. So there's a lot of special places in college basketball, right? There's a lot of great programs, a lot of great venues. but this is something that really is very unique, and I never want, myself included, I don't let my staff take it for granted, and I talked to Coach Grant about us as a program not taking that for granted, especially now we're in an era where the money they pay and the increases that they've had to experience in our other sports is now coming directly to you, right? We're in a revenue share era. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, and I'm not saying that I don't agree with that, but it is important that we know that that happens. So when you look at some of these on here and you say, someone's paying $60 a game to come up here and watch me and doing that 20 times a year, right? They're making a sacrifice for us, and I'll show you a couple of those. So we'll make our way down through here, and I'll show you a couple.
My 3 years here, but that was the first time we ever did something like that. And, you know, for him to kind of show us, you know, around the whole arena, we've been to places like I've never seen before in the arena, you know, going all the way to the top and then going all the way to the bottom just to see the different views that people are, you know, paying to come watch us play. You know, it's kind of amazing, you know, to show like how much, you know, the fans and the community really care about the UD basketball, and then like, you know, from how much they pay and, you know, where they're sitting at, it's surreal.
It was awesome. We got to walk around some of the seats that I had sat in as a kid watching games, and for me it was cool. That's like the first time I've really been around the arena and the concourse and everything since it got redone. So for me to kind of see everything new, it was really cool.
So we started our meeting, we started our Flyer Talk in the 400 level on the east side, and that was intentional because, you know, everyone sees the flashy seats and the courtside seats and our players are down there, but I wanted them to walk up the stairs, right? I wanted them to see the view, which by the way is a great view for a college basketball venue. But there are people that give of their time, their money, their effort, their family schedule to come sit in the last row of the arena to watch, you know, the Flyers play. And I wanted them to feel that walk. I wanted them to sit in those seats. I wanted them to see what people pay to do that so that they recognize that there are people behind this that allow them to have the opportunity that they have. And so as we started in the 400 level, and the last place we went, you know, really was some of the premium spaces. And the premium spaces are really important to us, but it's important to me that our players recognize that the season ticket holder that is in the front row is just as valuable as the season ticket holder that's in the last row.
Seeing all the accomplishment Obi accomplished at Dayton just made me eager to get on the court and made me want to really live up to this #1 that I'm putting on my back. So it just made me excited.
The history in the arena is just surreal, man. You know, to see Coach Grant's, you know, picture on the wall in black and white, like it, and for him to be the head coach here now and the success that he's had is just, you know, amazing. And you know, for it to be at Dayton and for it to be, you know, with the best fans in the country, that just makes it, you know, a whole lot better. You know, we're excited to get out there. You know, we were in the empty arena. We're waiting until November so that arena is packed, and we're gonna put on a show for you guys.
So I won't go through all of these things here, but this is just kind of a little bit of a history of Dayton basketball. It's kind of in this corridor, kind of Dayton by the numbers. Interesting. That was right before COVID, the year that the 29-2 team, people stayed on the court for about an hour after the game. Along here on the left, you'll see just different history points and different data points. Some of them have to be updated for this year because we do that in the summer. So you'll see, but there's a lot of tradition that we went to the Elite Eight in 2014. We want to head back to there, beat Syracuse in Buffalo. The year after that, our women's basketball team went to the Elite Eight. So there's a lot of history that kind of got interrupted, you know, around the COVID time that we get back to. Interesting, this picture here on the left, believe it or not, we played in an NCAA tournament game on this court in this building. So what happened was we host the first four. If you're familiar with that, we host all those NCAA tournaments. So the NCAA tournament has tipped off in this arena every year since 2001. There's no building in the United States or in the world that has ever hosted more NCAA tournament basketball games than UD Arena. We have hosted more, and by many, many multiples we've hosted. So we played Boise State here in the first 4. And you got to think about this, is that the season ticket holders couldn't get their tickets. It was an NCAA tournament game. So tickets were already sold to others. So you could imagine that what I just told you about tickets and then having an NCAA tournament game on our court, right? So it was probably the loudest this building has ever been, including, a couple games like Marquette that we had, and then Jordan Seibert hit a big time shot with less than a minute to go, and the place, just erupted. But we did play an NCAA tournament game here in Dayton, which was quite an experience and was a ticket nightmare for me, as you could imagine. I'll talk about this upstairs more, but before any of us were born, the NIT was a bigger deal than the NCAA tournament. The NIT was the featured tournament. It wasn't until really almost in the 80s that the NCAA superseded the NIT. So Dayton basketball has been in the Final Four and has been in the national championship in multiple times. And we'll talk a little bit about the 60s. But I mean, there you can see it's a kind of an iconic picture tipping off against Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and that is Lou Alcindor. I mean, they at the end of the day, what in the 60s kind of put Dayton basketball on the map. And we'll talk a little bit about that, not in too much detail, but I think the history does matter. But the NIT used to be a bigger deal in the NCAA tournament. And it's kind of hard for us to wrap our head around that, because we're not about the NIT here, right? We want one thing, which is the NCAA tournament. So, but we do have that history. And then you see there, that number's probably, we have to update that, but consecutive years in the top 30 in attendance here at Dayton. And you can see that 136 combined NCAA tournament games have been here, which the next closest probably doesn't even hit 100.
Let's go Flyers! Let's go Flyers! Let's go Flyers! Let's go Flyers!
So this is the Red Scare entrance. So this is where the students come in, and they got speakers built in here, and they kind of play the music. It's not uncommon for them to be out there at 2 o'clock on a game day, on a big game, and you see them out there when you come over. Guys that have driven over, you've seen them outside there before, right? So they line up here. In fact, sometimes it's so cold, I try to get them in early, but it's hard to let them all in here early. So this is where they come in. The music's bumping in here. College basketball is built on the backs of students, and so they're great. They buy about 2,000 tickets a year, voucher system that they use, and they got to take shuttles over here. They don't have parking passes. They walk. Some of them walk, and they're dedicated. They are dedicated. Some of them saw them at St. Louis this year. I mean, a group of them went over, and they travel as well. So we're very grateful for our students. Now, some of you incoming players may not have seen the court set up on your visit, because we use the building for other things, but the benches are here. We got courtside seating over there. So I don't know if when everyone came on their visit, if everyone got to see this, but this is where you guys put on the show right here. This is where it is. So, did everyone get to see it in court setup? No. So Malcolm, your first time? Yeah. This is where it happens. What will happen a lot of times is you're walking down this hallway, okay? And it's good when you're walking down the hallway and we had a good night, right? You had a good night personally, or the team had a good night. But invariably, if you ask some of the players who've been here, there's a little kid, a little 9-year-old or 10-year-old that sees you walk by and peeks his head out that door. And he wants to get a picture, give you a hug, get an autograph, right? And that's easy on a ESPN Friday night win, right? A little harder after you're losing at home, right? And so what I just ask is that when we're, to the extent we can, and there's emotion, I understand that. I'm not asking you to, smile all the time, but I just ask you to be aware of, oh man, there's a kid out, they're in here and he doesn't know. He just here watch his team, and an 11-year-old little boy or girl, and they just want to give you a fist bump. I just ask you to remember that, at those times, and not just here, but just really anywhere, because they really do. I could show you dozens of examples of how in this community they look up to you. We did some things about going to class, and if you tell kids to go to class, guess what they do? They go to class, right? And so That's not a lot of big cities or places that have other pro teams and stuff. There might be different heroes. You're it here. All right, so I'm not going to take a ton of time, and don't necessarily want to act like I'm lecturing, but I want to kind of just go a little bit, touch on a little bit of history, a couple of expectations, and I'm going to just play a relatively short video. This is, I'm not going to give you a full history lesson, okay? But on the left, this is Tom Blackburn's head gravestone. So Tom Blackburn was the basketball coach here that really put Dayton on the map. And that's some of those games in the 50s that I was talking about. And it's not so much that, obviously he had unbelievable success. The court is named after him. But I found out about this about 5 years ago. His original headstone was a military headstone that said nothing other than his name. And his players said, hey, he needs more than that. So the players chipped in money and got one that added to that headstone and made it bigger. And as the story goes, as it was told to me, and it starts to fade a little bit, but it says, I didn't want anything but the best for you and of you. And that really hit me a couple years ago, and I said, that's how I want to operate. I want the best for you. You're going to be able to get economic benefits that you've never had before, that were due to student athletes. And that's for you, right? We want you to get an education. We want you to leave here with lifelong relationships. We want you to leave here with alumni relationships. And as Coach Grant says, become the best version of yourself. I believe that we're the best at doing that in a 360-degree way of your whole life. And my commitment to you and my entire staff is that we will do that for you. We will do that. This community does that for you. And then the and part is a very coaching comment to me, right? But we need it of you. That's a two-way street, right? We need it of you. And if we can get that relationship right in Dayton, Ohio, the way our fans are, the way the university is, and the way they'll support you for decades, it's a golden ticket. It's a golden ticket in basketball. It's a golden ticket in life if you say, man, they're going to do the best for me, but what's my part of the deal? They need the best of me. There's some programs that the players are me, right? You got the portal, you got agents, you got negotiations. That's all okay, right? It's a business. We're allowed to do that. But at some point, we got to make sure that we got this and, you and of you. So what are real people, real stories, real faces. And I'm going to show about a 10-minute video for you here. But I just got an email. They didn't no idea I was having this meeting. This came through on Thursday from a young lady that used to work here and her dad, and they wrote me a page and a half of how Dayton basketball is the only way that her dad got through chemotherapy. This woman has been to, she's 96 years old. She has been to 1,100 Dayton Flyer basketball games. 1,100 Dayton basketball games, okay? And there's him ringing the bell after his chemo treatment. Okay, now, at the end of the day, that's big, right? Like, this is not a transactional place that it's just, you win, you lose, hey, go on to the next day. This is deeper than that. I'll talk about Ernie here in a second on the video, but just remember this pole. He came campus, he actually got to meet Coach Grant. He used to sneak into practice as a kid at the field house. This is the pole he climbed, and that's the window he went in when he was 11 years old, just for the chance to watch practice. Okay? So let me click on this video here.
When I was a kid, I would come over to the field house, the old field house, and sneak in and watch practices. And Tom Blackburn kicked me out on many occasions. But one day he said, "Get your butt down here," and set me down on the bench and said, "Don't move and don't say a word, and you can watch practice."
The one that stood out to me is when the old man, and I forgot his name, but he was climbing on the pole to go into watch the practices and stuff like that. I think that's just that shows basically how much they care about, just UD basketball. And then, he tried to sneak into the practices and watch them while they were practicing and stuff like that. So I just thought that was pretty crazy.
Coming from the fans, I think that shows us like college basketball still at its root is what it is. It's made by the fans, and I think we have some of the best fans in the country. I think probably the best. So I think getting an understanding of how much these people care for us as people and as basketball players was really cool to see.
I think the example that really shows what Dayton Flyers basketball means to me was from my junior year of college. I was studying abroad in Paris, France, and when the team made the tournament, I flew from Paris all the way to Salt Lake City to watch the games. I skipped my classes, and I think flying that 25-hour round trip and that kind of commitment really shows how dedicated Dayton Flyers basketball fans are and how much this community and supporting the team means to all of us.
I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you for not only putting on a great show for us, but also presenting the university the way you do when you're out and about.
I graduated from UD in 1994, and I married a UD alum in 1997. My husband Jeff and I got married at the Immaculate Conception Chapel on campus. 1 year anniversary, we decided to give each other a gift, and it was our first year that we purchased UD season tickets for basketball. 28 years later, we're about to purchase them for the 28th time as our anniversary gift.
I certainly love the idea of being a Dayton fan, and they've given me great joy for many years now.
Go Flyers!
Go Flyers!
Your coaches are going to coach you what I call financially blind. If we want to be real blunt about it, they don't care how much money you make or don't make. They want who's on the floor and who's in the program that gives them the best opportunity to win. And that's what I ask our coaches to do, and that's what they're going to do, okay? Coaches don't pay you. I don't pay you. The University of Dayton pays you. These people pay you. So it's a group, okay? So when we get into, you get into some of that stuff, I want you to remember is that I've asked your coaches, and I wouldn't even have to ask, they would do it anyway. They're gonna coach you financially blind, because that's what you expect and that's what I expect to be coached, to give us the best chance to do that, okay? So when we get into any of these issues or binds or, in the new world of agents and negotiations and stuff like that, I'll handle that. But that's gonna be irrespective of on the court and what the expectations are in terms of how you're gonna be treated, maybe not equally, but fairly across the board. We are stewards of other people's money, right? In the NBA, there's an owner of the team, right? Take your pick. Steve Ballmer owns the team. The Dolans own the Knicks. Who owns the University of Dayton? Trick question, right? There's no owner. We're just stewards of it. There's a board of trustees and there's different corporate governance, but there is no owner. The community owns this program at large, is how that works. In the NFL, NBA, there is a team ownership group, and they make that decision on if they're gonna build a new arena, if they're gonna pay a player, give a max contract. In college, no one owns the University of Dayton except the community, the alums, the fans, and the people that come before it. I guess I'll just wrap up that if you listen to nothing I said today, it's bigger than us, and we want it for you, but I need it of you in return.
What's good, y'all? It's your boy, Deshae Montgomery, but y'all can call me Tuski.
I pretty much figured out I was gonna commit while I was on my visit. It was a great reaction. He dapped me up, gave me a hug. It was excitement, it was happiness, and just from both sides, just ready to get it all going.
The fans also, like, seeing the games are always sold out. That's somewhere I want to be at.
We had dinner on my visit. We went back to his place and kind of just hung out and talked about, his goals for next season, and our goals kind of aligned winning-wise, and how we wanted to work this last season. So he definitely played a factor in it for sure.
So I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna rise up and shoot it. So they didn't call a foul. I still rose up and shot it, and I made it, and I do this. That was it.